Naruto had always felt out of place, trapped in the suffocating expectations of the village and haunted by the whispers of the villagers who saw only the demon within him. Yet, from the moment he felt the weight of the Zushi no Mi coursing through his veins, he understood power in a way he never had before. With gravity itself at his command, he no longer felt confined by the walls of Konoha or the burdens they'd thrust upon him. He was free to carve his own path. Naruto had stumbled upon the fruit by sheer chance. A strange box, hidden deep within an ancient temple outside Konoha, had beckoned to him. The markings on it were unfamiliar, but something about it had called out to him. Ignoring his usual impulse to rush forward, he had approached it cautiously. When he opened it, he found the strange fruit resting inside, as if it had been waiting for him. As he took a bite, he gagged at the taste, something unlike anything he'd ever experienced. But with each chew, a strange energy filled him, until he felt as though the very ground beneath him was shifting. Then, it happened. A pulse of gravitational force exploded outward, flattening the trees around him and leaving a crater where he stood. He staggered, breathless, a thrill running down his spine. Naruto knew he could never go back to being the village's naive, hopeful kid. Not anymore. He would create his own destiny, free from Konoha's judgment. The following weeks saw Naruto disappearing from the village, training himself in secret. He discovered he could control the pull of gravity, bend it to his will. He trained in silence, mastering the art of channeling gravity through his punches, his kicks, even his eyes. His strength grew exponentially, and with it, so did his hunger for more. He could feel the pull of his abilities changing him. There was a darkness to it, a raw, primal power that beckoned him to embrace more than just the light Konoha had promised him. He wasn't content to be a mere pawn, a weapon for the village to wield against its enemies. He was meant for something greater, something that didn't bow to the Hulkish ideals. One evening, Naruto returned to Konoha, his features hardened, his eyes colder than any of his peers had seen. He didn't even bother sneaking in. Instead, he strode down the main street, each step sending out subtle tremors that vibrated through the ground. People stopped, staring, murmuring his name with that familiar blend of fear and awe. As he made his way to the Hulkish Tower, he encountered a familiar face, Kakashi. His sensei gave him a measured look, one that hinted at worry and confusion. "Where have you been, Naruto?" Kakashi's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. "We've all been looking for you." Naruto smirked, a bitter edge to his smile. "Looking for me to drag me back to the village's leash?" His voice was sharp, laced with defiance. "I'm done with Konoha's protection. I've found power of my own now." Kakashi's eyes widened slightly. "What happened to you?" Naruto stepped forward, his gaze unwavering. "I've found what I needed to become stronger than any of you could have imagined." The air around him shifted, and suddenly Kakashi felt a weight pressing down on him, a force that seemed to crush his very bones. He staggered, nearly brought to his knees. Naruto's power had grown exponentially, a force he could barely comprehend. "This isn't you, Naruto," Kakashi said, struggling to stand under the immense pressure. "Whatever you've found, it's changed you?" Naruto's smile grew cold. "Maybe it has. But this power, it's made me see things clearly. I won't be a pawn anymore." Without another word, Naruto walked past Kakashi, each step sending out a pulse that trembled through the village. He could sense Umbu watching him from the shadows, their hesitation clear. No one dared approach him, not anymore. Word of Naruto's return spread quickly, and soon the other villagers and ninja gathered to witness the boy who had once been Konoha's underdog, now radiating a dark, uncontainable power. Tsunade herself appeared on the balcony of the Hulkish Tower, her face stern as she surveyed the scene. "Stand down, Naruto," Tsunade commanded, her voice booming over the gathered crowd. "Whatever power you've gained, you're still a part of this village. Don't forget that." Naruto tilted his head, considering her words. He respected Tsunade, but he had outgrown the need to follow orders. Konoha had taken so much from him: his childhood, his innocence, his trust. Now, with the Zushi no Mi's power, he was done obeying. Do you even hear yourself, Tsunade? He called back, his voice dripping with disdain. I'm no longer part of Kanata. I don't answer to anyone but myself. With a wave of his hand, he pulled at the gravity surrounding him, lifting the debris from the ground and hurling it skyward. The villagers gasped, watching in shock as boulders and chunks of earth floated above them, held in place by his command. I'm free now, Naruto continued, his voice calm but laced with an unyielding resolve. Free from the lies and control of this village. Tsunade's eyes narrowed, realizing the extent of Naruto's newfound power. She gave a subtle nod, and in an instant, several jonin leaped forward to subdue him. But Naruto was ready. He lifted his hand, and a crushing wave of gravity crashed down on his would-be attackers, pinning them to the ground, unable to move. He walked toward Tsunade, his movements slow, deliberate, exuding an aura of authority he had never possessed before. You all thought you could keep me as your weapon, didn't you? The little fox who'd fight your battles, take your hits. Well, I'm done with that. Tsunade clenched her fists, fury flashing in her eyes. Naruto, think about what you're doing. This isn't the path for you. Who decided my path, huh? Naruto's voice rose, filled with a bitterness he could no longer contain. Konoha took everything from me, treated me like dirt, and now they expect me to just fall in line? I don't think so. In a swift motion, he turned, unleashing a gravitational wave that shook the very foundations of the Hokage Tower. Tsunade managed to hold her ground, but the Umbu and Jonin scattered, helpless against his onslaught. He gazed out at the village, a calm determination settling over him. From now on, I'll walk my own path. I'll take what I want, and I won't let anyone control me. Without looking back, Naruto leaped into the air, suspending himself with gravity as he soared over the village. The crowd below watched, stunned, as he disappeared into the night sky, leaving behind a legacy of defiance and power. This was a new beginning for Naruto, a chance to create a world that would finally bow to him and his will. And no one, not Kanata, not the Hokage, not even the gods themselves, would stand in his way. The silence left in Naruto's wake was thick and suffocating. The villagers of Kanata stood frozen, the weight of what had just transpired settling over them like a dark cloud. Tsunade watched as he vanished into the horizon, her heart heavy with a mixture of anger, sorrow, and a hint of fear. She knew that the Naruto who had left the village was no longer the bright-eyed, hopeful boy she'd once known. This Naruto was something entirely new and dangerous. Naruto traveled under the cover of night, moving effortlessly as he floated above forests, rivers, and villages. The world felt different from up here, away from the gaze of others, liberated from the chains of Konoha's expectations. The power thrumming within him felt limitless, a living force eager to be unleashed. But Naruto was no longer the impulsive kid he'd once been. This time, he'd planned his moves carefully. He stopped by a cliff overlooking a sprawling valley, its peaks bathed in moonlight. This would be the place where he'd hone his power further. He raised his hand, focusing, and a wave of gravity radiated outwards. The ground cracked, rocks levitated around him, and the very air felt charged. With a smirk, he clenched his fist, and the stones shattered into dust. Not bad, he muttered to himself, watching the particles drift down. But he needed to push further. His enemies, the village, the world, they were strong. And he would become stronger. Back in Kanata, the fallout was immediate. Word of Naruto's transformation and departure spread rapidly. Some were fearful, some angry, and others were simply confused. Kakashi, Tsunade, and the rest of the village's top shinobi convened in a hastily assembled council, each of them struggling to process the reality that Naruto, their comrade and friend, was gone. We can't just leave him out there unchecked, Tsunade said, her voice tense as she looked around the room. He has power we don't fully understand, and he's openly hostile to the village. Sasuke leaned against the wall, his eyes narrowed. He, more than anyone, understood Naruto's sense of defiance, the pull toward darkness. Part of him was almost envious of Naruto's boldness, the way he'd broken free without hesitation. But another part, a small, quiet voice he rarely acknowledged felt the loss keenly. "We know where he's likely heading," Sasuke finally spoke, drawing everyone's attention. "Naruto will vanish. He'll look to test his strength and it won't be long before he crosses paths with people we can't ignore." Kakashi sighed, rubbing his temples. "But where does that leave us? Do we treat him as an enemy? He's still Naruto, and he's done more for this village than anyone else his age." "Naruto made his choice," Tsunade said, steel in her tone. "If he comes back to Konoha, he'll be treated like any other threat." Days passed, and Naruto's journey brought him to new places, shadowy villages that operated outside the laws of the major shinobi nations, places where might ruled and the weak had no voice. His reputation began to grow as he crossed paths with rogue ninjas, warriors who operated on the fringes. They were strong in their own right, but none matched the power Naruto now wielded. One evening, as he walked through a small, dimly lit village, he was confronted by a group of mercenaries notorious in a land of rivers. They were hardened, ruthless men who had built their empire by crushing anyone who challenged them. But Naruto wasn't just anyone. One of them, a tall man with a scar slashed across his face, blocked Naruto's path. "You've got a bit of a reputation, kid," he sneered. "Been hearing about a brat with strange powers. Figured we'd see what all the fuss was about." Naruto regarded him with an expression of cold indifference. "Move," he said, his voice steady, laced with a promise of violence. The man chuckled, glancing at his comrades. "Hear that? The little fox thinks he's dangerous." Without a word, Naruto extended his hand, and an invisible force crushed the mercenary's body to the ground. He screamed as the gravity intensified, his bones creaking under the pressure. The others watched, stunned, as Naruto turned his gaze on each of them. "I don't repeat myself," he said, his voice low but deadly. "Move." Panic rippled through the remaining mercenaries. They backed away, their confidence shattered by the overwhelming force Naruto had displayed. As he walked past them, he felt nothing, no remorse, no guilt. Only a dark satisfaction. This was the path he had chosen. Eventually, Naruto made his way to the ruins of an ancient temple deep in the mountains. He'd heard whispers of the place once a stronghold of a forgotten clan known for their mastery over unique jutsu and forbidden techniques. Naruto could sense something here, a residual energy that hinted at power beyond even his current understanding. He wandered through the crumbling halls, examining old scrolls and fragments of tablets. Much of it was indecipherable, but he could sense the weight of history, of long-lost knowledge. As he walked, he found a large chamber at the heart of the temple, its walls etched with faded symbols and strange diagrams. Kneeling in the center was an old man, his eyes closed, his presence eerie and otherworldly. Naruto's instincts told him that this man was no ordinary wanderer. "You have the aura of someone who has seen much pain," the man said, his voice rough but wise. "Tell me, young one, why do you seek such power?" Naruto's gaze hardened. "To forge my own path. I'll no longer be controlled or used. Konoha, they don't own me. No one does." The old man nodded, his eyes still closed. "Power alone can be a dangerous path. But perhaps it's one you were always meant to walk." He raised the withered hand, and Naruto felt a strange surge of energy fill the room, the resonance that matched his own. There are forces at work in this world that go beyond any one village's reach. If you truly wish to walk your own path, then you must understand what it means to wield power without restraint. Naruto smirked, unafraid. "That's exactly what I intend to do." The man's eyes opened, glinting with a knowing light. "Then go forth, young one. Let the world see what it has unleashed." Naruto left the temple, the weight of his power feeling more defined, more focused. He no longer moved like a boy seeking approval. He moved like a storm ready to reshape everything in its path. Far from the mountains, in a hidden base, whispers of Naruto's transformation reached Orochimaru. The snake-like grin stretched across his face as he contemplated this new development. So, Naruto Uzumaki has found a path of his own, has he? He mused aloud, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. This could be interesting. A dark, quiet laugh echoed through the chamber. The world had begun to shift, and in the center of it all, Naruto was carving his place no longer a weapon of Kanata, but a force in his own right, unbound by the past. For the first time, Naruto felt alive. And for the world, this was only the beginning. As Naruto descended from the mountains, the sensation of freedom resonated with every step. His newfound power had liberated him from the constraints of Kanata, and he felt like a force of nature, untethered by the rules that had always held him back. In this world of shadows and whispers, he would build his legacy, one that would echo across nations. News of Naruto's defection and his terrifying power spread rapidly. Rogue shinobi, mercenary groups, and hidden factions whispered of the Fox of Gravity. His reputation grew among those who lived beyond the reach of the shinobi villages. Tales of his feats of men flattened to the earth, forests leveled with a glance, and rivers diverted by his will soon reached even the furthest corners of the shinobi world. Yet Naruto didn't stop to revel in his growing notoriety. He knew that Konoha would eventually send someone after him, and he intended to be ready. So he trained relentlessly, testing the limits of the Zushi no Mi and pushing himself further each day. It was in the midst of one such session, deep within a dense forest, that Naruto encountered his first true challenger. Naruto sensed the presence long before he saw the figure emerge from the trees. A lean, masked figure with Umbu insignia stepped forward, clad in dark armor, eyes wary and alert. "Uzumaki Naruto," the Umbu member said, voice cold and precise. "By the order of the Hokage, you are to return to Konoha. If you resist, I am authorized to use any means necessary to bring you back." Naruto's eyes narrowed as he sized up the man. "And if I refuse?" The Umbu agent hesitated only for a moment. "Then you will be subdued by force." Naruto chuckled, a dark amusement lighting up his eyes. "You're welcome to try." Without further warning, the Umbu member launched forward, his movements precise and rapid. In the blink of an eye, he closed the distance between them, his kunai flashing in a swift arc toward Naruto's chest. But before the blade could make contact, Naruto raised his hand, a gravitational force surging outward and stopping the Umbu in his tracks. The agent struggled against the crushing weight, his body forced to the ground, knees buckling as the pressure grew. Naruto watched him, unbothered, as he applied more force, until the ground beneath the Umbu began to crack. "Is that really all Konoha sent to bring me back?" Naruto's voice was calm, almost disappointed. The Umbu agent gasped, his eyes wild with fear. But then, to Naruto's surprise, he smirked. "No, not quite." In an instant, Naruto's senses shifted in the air. 3 more shadows materialized in the trees, each one a skilled shinobi bearing Konoha's emblem. He sensed their chakra, each one radiating strength and resolve. "Well," Naruto said, a grin forming on his face. "Now this is more like it." The 3 shinobi leaped forward, attacking in unison. The forest erupted into chaos as fire jutsu, kunai, and shuriken were launched toward Naruto from all directions. He reacted with precision, manipulating gravity to create barriers that deflected the attacks. His movements were fluid and effortless, each gesture bending the very fabric of the battlefield to his will. One of the shinobi attempted a surprise attack from behind, weaving through the shadows with a well-executed silent step. But Naruto anticipated it. He twisted his hand, increasing the gravity behind him, and the attacker was slammed to the ground with a force that shattered the earth beneath him. "You really thought that would work?" Naruto taunted, his tone mocking. The remaining 2 shinobi exchanged a look, clearly realizing the gravity of the situation both literally and figuratively. One of them quickly made hand signs, preparing a high-level water-style jutsu, while the other focused their chakra, summoning an earthen barrier to pin Naruto down. But Naruto, unfazed, raised both hands, exerting his power on a scale he hadn't used in battle before. The gravitational force intensified, ripping the ground apart and sending the earthen barrier crumbling. The water jutsu dispersed in mid-air, crashing to the ground as the very landscape distorted under Naruto's control. The shinobi staggered, barely able to stand. Naruto took a step forward, his eyes blazing with a cold, terrifying determination. "This is your last chance," he said, his voice low and deadly. "Tell the Hokage that I'm no longer her concern. Konoha's rules don't apply to me anymore." With a final pulse of gravity, Naruto forced the remaining shinobi to their knees. They had no choice but to submit, and after a tense moment, they retreated into the shadows, defeated. As they vanished, Naruto felt a rush of exhilaration. He had faced the best Konoha had to offer, and they hadn't stood a chance. His power was unmatched, and the future lay wide open before him. Days later, Naruto found himself at the edge of a bustling black market town, a place where all manner of shinobi, mercenaries, and warlords gathered. Here, in this haven for the outcast and the ambitious, Naruto's reputation preceded him. Eyes followed him as he walked through the streets, his presence commanding both respect and fear. He'd come here for a reason. A powerful, dangerous group known as the Crimson Lotus was rumored to operate out of this town, a syndicate made up of rogue shinobi from all nations. If he was going to build his own legacy, he would need allies who shared his vision. Naruto strode confidently into the heart of the Crimson Lotus's territory, unbothered by the suspicious glares of the guards. They parted for him, sensing the danger in his stride, until he reached a vast underground hall where the leaders of the syndicate awaited. A tall, armored woman with piercing eyes stepped forward. She looked him up and down, unimpressed. "So, you're the fox of gravity everyone's talking about. You really think you can just walk in here and expect us to follow you?" Naruto met her gaze, undaunted. "I didn't come here to ask. I came to take what I need." The room tensed, the leaders bristling at his arrogance. The woman sneered, drawing her weapon. "I'd like to see you try." But before she could even step forward, Naruto raised his hand, and a crushing wave of gravity pinned her to the ground, her body forced into a kneeling position. Her comrades watched in shock as Naruto held her there effortlessly. He addressed the room, his voice calm but commanding. "The world as you know it is about to change. I'm not interested in the games you play here. Join me, or be crushed by what's coming." The room was silent, the leaders uncertain, yet deeply aware of the power he wielded. They'd never encountered someone like him, someone who radiated such overwhelming authority. Slowly, the woman nodded, her gaze hard but respectful. "Fine. We'll follow you, for now. But if you can't deliver on your promises, we'll make sure you pay." Naruto released his hold on her, a small, satisfied smile forming on his lips. "Then you'd better keep up." With the Crimson Lotus at his side, Naruto's influence began to spread even further, his network of allies and resources expanding by the day. He moved with purpose, gathering power, sending riddles across the shinobi world. Far away, Konoha buzzed with uneasy tension. Tsunade stood in her office, gazing out at the village below, a deep worry etched across her face. "Naruto, what are you becoming?" Beside her, Kakashi's expression was somber. "If he continues on this path, we may not have a choice but to confront him, as an enemy." Tsunade clenched her fists, the weight of her decision pressing down on her. "Then we'll prepare. But I won't underestimate him. Not again." And so, both sides braced for what was to come. Naruto, carving his own path with unstoppable determination, and Konoha, preparing to face a threat unlike any they had ever known. The storm was brewing, and the world itself would tremble at the chaos Naruto Uzumaki would unleash. With the Crimson Lotus now under his control, Naruto moved swiftly, using the syndicate's resources to broaden his influence. He was no longer the boy dreaming of being Hokage. Instead, he was a force, an unchained whirlwind who would carve a path entirely his own, reshaping the world by his will. The first order of business was setting up bases and securing critical regions. Naruto knew that Konoha wouldn't sit idly by, they would send their strongest to hunt him down. But he had plans in place. For every scout or spy sent to track him, he had eyes watching theirs in return. His people were all around, invisible shadows who reported every whisper, every hidden action. It wasn't long before other rogue factions, small villages in rebellion, and even individual shinobi seeking freedom started pledging themselves to him. To them, Naruto wasn't just a legend, he was hope for a life outside the control of the shinobi villages. He promised them something that the great nations never would: power and freedom. As his empire began to expand, rumors and whispers reached Konoha, each tale more unsettling than the last. In the Hokish's office, Tsunade sat with grim determination, staring at a map littered with red marks. Each one represented a skirmish or sighting of Naruto's growing forces. Kakashi, Shikamaru, and other high-ranking jonin gathered around her, their faces set with worry. "This can't be ignored anymore," Tsunade said, her voice low. "Naruto has assembled a coalition. He's built an army." Shikamaru studied the map thoughtfully, his mind racing as he pieced together Naruto's movements. "He's been strategic. We can't track him, yet his influence spreads like wildfire. The groups he's targeting, smaller nations, rebel cells, none of them ever had a chance against the great nations. Now, they are all looking to him." Kakashi's face was drawn. "He's giving them what they want: protection, freedom, power, things they never dreamed they could achieve on their own. Naruto is building a coalition of the disillusioned. And it's working," Tsunade said, slamming her fist on the table. "We can't let this continue. He's becoming a threat to the balance of the world." Sasuke, who had remained silent, finally spoke, his tone cold. "Send me." The room fell silent. Tsunade looked at Sasuke with a mixture of relief and apprehension. Sasuke and Naruto had once been close, bound by a rivalry that had bordered on friendship. But now, they stood on opposing sides of an unbridgeable chasm. "Sasuke, are you certain? This isn't just a mission. If you confront him," Tsunade's voice trailed off. "I know what it means," Sasuke interrupted, his gaze unwavering. "Naruto chose his path. And I'll choose mine. If he's become a threat to Konoha, then I'll put an end to it." Miles away, Naruto stood on a high cliff overlooking his growing camp, the Crimson Lotus base bustling below him. Camp stretched as far as the eye could see, filled with rogue shinobi, disillusioned soldiers, and villagers who had once been outcasts. A figure approached him from behind, the leader of the Crimson Lotus, the same woman he had once forced to her knees. Her name was Kaed, a warrior with her own scars and stories, someone who had long ago abandoned loyalty to any one village. "Your forces grow every day, Naruto," she said, her tone respectful. "But there's something you should know." Naruto turned, his eyes sharp. "Go on." "There's word from my scouts that Konoha is mobilizing. They are preparing for war. And Sasuke, he's coming for you." Naruto's expression remained calm, though a faint spark of interest flickered in his eyes. He hadn't seen Sasuke since he left the village. The thought of facing him again, now as equals, stirred something within him. "Let them come," Naruto said, his voice firm. "Sasuke knows me better than anyone. If he's coming, he'll expect me to be ready." Kaed regarded him with a mixture of admiration and caution. "This isn't like our other battles. Konoha will throw everything at us. Are you prepared for that?" Naruto turned to look out over the valley, his gaze distant. "Konoha taught me strength, but they never understood my power. I'll show them what it means to live without limits." The confrontation between Naruto and Konoha came swiftly. Scouts reported enemy movements nearing the border of Naruto's territory, and he ordered his forces to form defensive lines, positioning his best fighters along the outer camps. Naruto himself waited in a clearing at the heart of his territory, a vast open field surrounded by dense trees and rocky cliffs. The sky was darkening, thick clouds rolling in, as if nature itself sensed the battle that was about to unfold. Soon enough, he sensed Sasuke's presence before he saw him, the familiar chakra's signature that had once been his rival. Sasuke emerged from the shadows, his face unreadable, his Sharingan active, eyes sharp and wary. "Long time, Sasuke," Naruto said, his tone cool. Sasuke stared at him, his expression hard. "Naruto, what have you become?" Naruto laughed, a dark, mirthless sound. I've become what I was always meant to be. I'm no longer Konoha's weapon or their pawn. I'm free. Sasuke's grip tightened on his sword. Free? You're building an empire on rebellion and violence. You're not freeing people, you're controlling them. Naruto's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. Isn't that what all of the shinobi villages do? Control through power? I'm just doing it better. Sasuke took a step forward, his voice filled with a cold fury. I didn't come here to argue with you. If you're set on this path, then I'll stop you here and now. Naruto smirked, his fingers crackling with gravitational energy. Then show me, Sasuke. Show me if you are strong enough. And then, in an instant, the field erupted into chaos. Sasuke was the first to strike, his sword slicing through the air as he charged. Naruto countered with a burst of gravity, the force rippling outward and forcing Sasuke to leap back. But Sasuke was relentless, activating his Chidori and weaving through Naruto's gravitational pulls with ease, closing the gap between them. Naruto grinned, impressed by Sasuke's speed. He sent another wave of gravity downward, flattening the ground and creating a crater beneath them. Sasuke stumbled but recovered, launching a barrage of fireballs that seared through the air. Naruto manipulated the gravity around him, deflecting the flames and sending them hurtling back towards Sasuke, who dodged, his Sharingan eyes tracking every move. The two clashed, their powers tearing through the field, a storm of lightning and crushing force echoing through the valley. As the battle raged, Naruto found himself pushing harder than he'd expected. Sasuke's power had grown his Sharingan sharp, his movements calculated. But Naruto's own power was far from its peak. He channeled the Zushi no Mi, creating a massive gravitational pull that distorted the very air around him. With a roar, Naruto intensified the gravity, creating a field that crushed everything within a 100-meter radius. Rocks splintered, trees were uprooted, and the ground buckled under the force. Sasuke staggered, struggling against the immense pressure. Is this really all you have, Sasuke? Naruto taunted, his voice echoing with confidence. Konoha's best can't even make me break a sweat. But Sasuke only smirked. I'm just getting started. In a flash, Sasuke activated his Susanoo, the massive spectral warrior forming around him. He stood tall, his eyes locked on Naruto with deadly intent. Then let's see if you can handle this, Sasuke said, his Susanoo raising its sword, lightning crackling along its edge. Naruto grinned, his blood pounding with excitement. With a powerful surge, he raised his hand, summoning a colossal gravity field to meet Sasuke's Susanoo head-on. The ground trembled as the two powers collided, the sky darkening as the energy between them escalated. The battle had only just begun, but in that moment, both knew it would reshape everything around them, leaving only one to stand in the end. The clash of powers reverberated across the valley, shaking the very earth beneath them. Naruto's gravitational field and Sasuke's Susanoo collided in a spectacular explosion, sending shockwaves rippling outward. Trees splintered, rocks shattered, and the air itself crackled with the intensity of their confrontation. Sasuke steadied himself within his Susanoo, his eyes narrowing as he surveyed the chaotic landscape. You've grown strong, Naruto, he admitted, the respect evident in his tone despite the situation. But your power isn't enough to crush me? Naruto smirked, unfazed by the compliment. And I've only just begun to show you what I can do. With a sudden thrust of his hand, Naruto intensified the gravitational pull around him. The air thickened, making it harder for Sasuke to maintain his footing even within the protective embrace of his Susanoo. Rocks and debris began to float and then rush toward Naruto as he manipulated the forces of nature itself. You think that can stop me? Sasuke retorted, his eyes flaring with determination. The Susanoo surged forward, its sword glowing with a fierce blue light. With a powerful swing, it cut through the air, aiming directly for Naruto. But Naruto was ready. He conjured a gravitational shield, forcing the Susanoo's attack to veer off course. The impact sent tremors through the ground, but Naruto remained focused, channeling the energy of the Zushi no Mi to draw more power from the earth around him. I won't be taken down that easily," Naruto shouted, launching a counterattack. He reached out with both hands, creating an immense gravitational field that pulled everything towards him. A swirling mass of earth, trees, and debris surged forth like a tidal wave. Sasuke's Susanoo braced itself against the onslaught, but the sheer force of Naruto's technique began to overwhelm it. "I need more power," Sasuke muttered, his Sharingan swirling with intensity. "Time to end this." In a flash, he activated his Manjiki Sharingan, calling forth a new technique that radiated an ominous energy. "Amen Otashikara," he declared, warping space around him. In an instant, he reappeared directly above Naruto, descending with the full might of his Susanoo's sword aimed for a devastating blow. Naruto barely had time to react. He released a wave of gravity in a desperate attempt to push Sasuke back, but it was too late. The sword came crashing down, the impact sending a massive shockwave through the air. The ground exploded beneath them, creating a crater that echoed with the sound of their clash. Naruto gritted his teeth, using every ounce of willpower to counteract the pressure of the attack, but the force was monumental. As the dust settled, Naruto emerged from the chaos, panting but unbroken. The power coursing through him was exhilarating, and the thrill of battle ignited a fire deep within. "Is that all you've got?" he taunted, defiant against the odds. Sasuke, panting and visibly strained, smirked. "I'll admit, you're tougher than I expected. But I'm not done yet." With a fierce determination, Sasuke unleashed his next move, the Susanoo's aura pulsating with energy. "Susanoo, Tsusugami?" The ethereal warrior shimmered and transformed into a colossal form, its size dwarfing everything around them. Naruto's eyes widened in awe at the sheer scale of Sasuke's power. "Impressive. But let's see how you handle this." Naruto raised both hands to the sky, channeling a massive gravitational force. The very air crackled as he focused, creating a sphere of gravitational energy that began to crush everything around it, including the ground itself. "Let's go," he shouted, hurling the sphere towards Sasuke with ferocious intent. The massive orb surged through the air, distorting the landscape in its wake. Sasuke's Susanoo roared in defiance, raising its colossal sword to intercept the attack. The moment their powers collided, the explosion was deafening, sending debris and energy cascading in all directions. Back in Kanata, the tension was palpable. Tsunade watched the distant horizon from her office, eyes narrowed with worry. "We need to make a move before it's too late," she said, turning to Kakashi and Shikamaru. "We can't let Naruto become a dictator. His vision of freedom could turn into tyranny." Kakashi nodded, his expression grim. "If we can't reach him through diplomacy, we'll have to confront him directly. But we need to be prepared for his new abilities." Shikamaru crossed his arms, deep in thought. "We should also consider that if we attack, we may end up pushing him further away. He believes in his new path. He won't be easy to sway. We need to show him that there's still a place for him in Konoha," Tsunade said firmly. "Before he loses everything he once cared about." Back in the valley, Naruto and Sasuke's battle raged on, neither willing to back down. The aftermath of their previous attack left the landscape scarred, a testament to the power of their clash. Naruto could feel the energy pulsating within him, the Zushi no Mi awakening new abilities. He had tasted freedom, and he was not about to lose it now. With renewed determination, he pushed forward, drawing upon his will and the energy around him to manipulate gravity in unprecedented ways. He conjured a series of gravitational waves, sending them rippling towards Sasuke, who barely managed to dodge each one. "You think you can control this battle?" Sasuke shouted, his voice strained but defiant. "I don't think I know." Naruto roared back, launching himself forward with astonishing speed. He closed the distance, ready to unleash a devastating punch empowered by gravity. Sasuke reacted in kind, channeling the last remnants of his strength into a powerful Chidori. As they collided, the resulting shockwave rippled through the valley once again, sending both shinobi staggering back. Naruto grinned, panting but exhilarated. "This is what I wanted. A real fight." Sasuke, too, felt the rush of adrenaline, and for a moment, the tension between them shifted. They were rivals, bound by their past, but here and now, they were equals, fighting for their beliefs and their future. The battle escalated further, the two of them exchanging blows with a ferocity that left the landscape forever changed. Every punch, every jutsu, resonated with the weight of their histories and their choices. Finally, as they stood facing each other in the crater they had created, both shinobi knew this confrontation was more than just a test of strength. It was a clash of ideals, a battle for their very souls. "Is this the path you want, Naruto?" Sasuke asked, breathless but unwavering. "To become what you hated the most?" Naruto's expression hardened, the playful glint in his eyes replaced with something more serious. "I don't care what Konoha thinks anymore. I'll make my own path, and I'll forge a world where no one has to suffer under someone else's rules. Even if it means becoming a tyrant." Sasuke shot back, his voice piercing through the air. "Even then," Naruto replied, his voice steady. "But I won't be like them, Sasuke. I'll rule with power, yes, but I'll also give them the freedom to choose. I'll create a place where they can be strong, where they don't have to bow to anyone." Sasuke narrowed his eyes, considering Naruto's words. "And what about the bonds you forged in Konoha? The friends you left behind?" Naruto's gaze softened for a moment. "They are still part of me. But they'll have to understand. I'm doing this for them too. If I can free them from their shackles, then I'll do whatever it takes." As they prepared for the final confrontation, both shinobi channeled their chakra, focusing their energy into one last powerful attack. It was a moment that would define them, a choice that would resonate across the shinobi world. With a roar, they unleashed their jutsu simultaneously, a dazzling collision of lighting and gravity that lit up the sky, painting it with colors that had never been seen before. In that moment, time seemed to stand still, and for both Naruto and Sasuke, the world narrowed down to just them, their past, their present, and the future that lay ahead. Would they find a way to understand one another, or would they remain forever divided by their choices? As the dust began to settle and the echoes of their battle faded, the two stood amid the remnants of their clash, their destinies intertwined, waiting to see who would emerge as the victor in this epic confrontation. As the explosive energies from their final jutsu began to dissipate, Naruto and Sasuke stood panting amidst the chaos, both equally matched in the raw power and determination. The ground around them was scarred, and the air was thick with the remnants of their fierce chakra. The atmosphere crackled with tension, and it felt as if the world itself held its breath, waiting for the next move. Naruto looked at Sasuke, his breath coming in heavy gasps. "You know I don't want to fight you," he said, his tone softer than before. "But I can't let Konoha or anyone else dictate my path anymore." Sasuke, still surrounded by the ethereal glow of his Susanoo, studied Naruto's expression. "You talk about freedom, but you're building an army. You're preparing for war. Is that really the answer?" Naruto's gaze hardened, the flicker of doubt in Sasuke's voice igniting his resolve. "You don't understand. I've seen how the villages control people, how they crush dreams and ambitions. I'm giving them a chance to break free. And what about you?" Sasuke pressed, stepping forward. "You're losing yourself in this pursuit. You can become the very thing you fought against." "Maybe you're right," Naruto admitted, crossing his arms. "But if I have to embrace this power to protect those I care about, then so be it. I won't let anyone suffer again." Sasuke's expression shifted, the steel in his eyes wavering. "You're becoming a leader, Naruto. A good leader doesn't rule through fear. You can still choose a better path." The air crackled with unspoken words, and both shinobi felt the weight of their histories bearing down on them. The bond they once shared, forged through pain and rivalry, had grown strained but not broken. "Let's end this," Naruto declared, summoning a surge of chakra. "If you can beat me, then maybe you'll have a point." Sasuke nodded, his own resolve solidifying. "And if I lose, then I'll follow you?" With their resolve set, they both leaped into action again, charging at one another with a speed that left the ground beneath them trembling. Sasuke's Susanoo raised its sword, while Naruto, harnessing the Zushi no Mi's gravity, pulled the entity of the earth around him to launch a counterattack. The clash was fierce, each move calculated and precise. Sasuke swung his sword down, and Naruto retaliated with a gravitational wave that altered the trajectory of the strike, forcing Sasuke to change his position mid-attack. The two danced around one another in a deadly rhythm, pushing each other to their limits. Naruto feinted to the left and unleashed a wave of gravitational force, aiming to knock Sasuke off balance. But Sasuke was ready, using his Sharingan to predict the move and teleporting just out of reach, landing a solid punch to Naruto's gut. The force knocked the wind out of Naruto, but he quickly recovered, spinning to kick Sasuke away, the impact shaking the air around him. Sasuke twisted in mid-air, landing gracefully and immediately countering with a barrage of fireballs, each one bursting forth with a searing intensity. Naruto reacted swiftly, manipulating the gravity around him to deflect the flames into the sky, creating a spectacular display of fire and light. "Not bad, but you'll need to do better," Naruto shouted, his confidence soaring. Sasuke grinned, his own spirit rekindled by the banter. "I'm just getting started." As the battle continued, they pushed each other further, neither willing to yield an inch. The ground beneath them had transformed into a crater, remnants of their previous clashes scattered around like forgotten memories. Suddenly, Naruto paused, a thought striking him. "Sasuke, what if we combined our powers instead of fighting?" Sasuke hesitated, surprised by the proposition. "What do you mean?" "Think about it. With your Sharingan and Susanoo combined with my gravity, we could create something truly powerful. We could change the world together instead of tearing it apart." Sasuke's brow furrowed, contemplating the idea. "You really believe we can just work together?" "Why not? We've fought together before. We were a team," Naruto argued, hope shining in his eyes. "If we combine our strengths, we can forge a path that doesn't involve war and destruction." For a moment, Sasuke was silent, weighing Naruto's words against his instincts. He had always been a lone wolf, driven by his personal vendettas. But standing before Naruto, he felt a flicker of camaraderie that had once bound them together. "Fine," Sasuke finally said, resolve building in his voice. "But this isn't about bending to each other's wills. It's about finding a new way." "Agreed." Naruto grinned, the tension easing from his shoulders. "Let's do this." The air around them shifted as they began to focus their energies, each of them channeling their chakra into a single point. Sasuke called forth the Susanoo, its majestic form rising to protect them, while Naruto summoned the gravitational forces of the earth, ready to amplify their combined might. "Let's show them what we're capable of," Naruto shouted, energy surging around him. Sasuke nodded, his eyes narrowing with determination. "We'll make them understand." In an instant, they unleashed their combined technique. A massive wave of gravitational energy mixed with the raw power of the Susanoo erupted forth, creating a dazzling display of light and force that surged across the battlefield. The energy expanded outward, distorting reality itself as it pushed everything away from them. The shock wave rippled through the valley, sweeping away debris and sending both their forces and those gathered to witness the battle flying. The sheer force of their technique illuminated the sky, a beacon of power that could be seen for miles. Back in Kanata, the shinobi standing guard at the village's borders fell to tremor in the earth beneath them. Tsunade's heart raced as she watched the brilliant light in the distance. "What are they doing?" she murmured, fear and hope battling within her. "We have to move," Kakashi said, determination set in his expression. "If they are going to fight, we need to be ready to intervene if it goes too far." Shikamaru clenched his fists, his mind racing. "We can't let Naruto destroy everything he's built, or everything we've built. We need to find a way to reach him." Back in the battlefield, as the entity settled, Naruto and Sasuke stood at the center of their creation, panting but exhilarated. They had created a display of power that would echo across the nations. "Did we do it?" Sasuke asked, his voice hoarse but filled with wonder. Naruto looked around, the landscape transformed by their combined technique. We might have just changed everything. But before they could celebrate their victory, a familiar presence emerged from the shadows. Orochimaru, his wicked smile betraying his intentions. Impressive, Naruto. Sasuke. But I must say, I have my own plans for this world, and I don't intend to let you get in my way. Naruto and Sasuke exchanged glances, their expressions hardening. What do you want, Orochimaru? Naruto growled, fists clenched. Orochimaru stepped forward, his eyes glinting with ambition. I see the potential in your alliance. A force such as yours would be a valuable asset. But you have something I want. Sasuke raised an eyebrow, suspicion evident. What are you talking about? The power of the Sage of Six Paths, the abilities you've unlocked, and the Devil Fruit, Naruto. Imagine what I could accomplish with that power at my disposal. Join me, and we can reshape this world together. Naruto's face twisted in disgust. Never. I'll never join you. I'll make my own path. Orochimaru chuckled, unfazed by their defiance. Very well. But know this, the world is filled with those who seek power, and they will come for you. You can't run from your fate forever. With a flick of his wrist, Orochimaru vanished into a swirl of snakes, leaving behind a lingering sense of dread. Naruto turned to Sasuke, anger flaring within him. We can't let him or anyone else dictate our future. We have to be ready. Sasuke nodded, determination radiating from him. We need to prepare our forces and gather allies. If Orochimaru is involved, then this could escalate into something much bigger. Naruto smirked, confidence returning. Then let's show them what we can do together. We'll forge a new path for ourselves and anyone who believes in our vision. And so, with a newfound alliance forged in the fires of battle and mutual respect, Naruto and Sasuke set forth to gather their strength. They would prepare for the challenges ahead, facing not just their past but also the dark forces that threatened to unravel everything they had built. The world was about to witness the rise of a new power of force that would challenge the very foundations of the shinobi world and reshape it according to their ideals. And together, they would fight to ensure that the future they envisioned would not be snuffed out by those who sought to control it. The winds of change were stirring, and Naruto Uzumaki, empowered by the gravity of his choices, was ready to take on whatever came next. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a crimson hue over the battlefield that now lay in ruins, a testament to the fierce confrontation between Naruto and Sasuke. As the last remnants of Orochimaru's threat dissipated into the ether, both shinobi stood resolute, their minds racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. Naruto turned to Sasuke, the gravity of their new alliance settling in. We need to gather everyone. This isn't just about us anymore. We have to warn the others about Orochimaru and prepare for whatever he has planned. Sasuke nodded, a fierce determination igniting in his eyes. We can't waste any time. If he's plotting something, we need to be one step ahead. As they began their descent from the battlefield, Naruto felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. For too long, he had fought for himself, for his own desires. But now, he was fighting for a future he hoped to build for everyone. Let's stop by the village first, Naruto suggested as they reached the edge of the crater. Tsunade will want to know what's happened. Sasuke nodded, but there was a hint of concern in his eyes. And we need to prepare the village for what's coming. If Orochimaru has returned, he won't be alone. We may have to face other threats too. Back in Kanata, the atmosphere was tense. Tsunade, Kakashi, and Shikamaru had gathered in the war room, their expressions serious as they discussed the potential ramifications of Naruto and Sasuke's newfound power. The last thing we need is another war, Tsunade said, her fingers tapping anxiously on the table. If Naruto and Sasuke unleashed their abilities without control, it could lead to devastation. Kakashi sighed, looking thoughtful. But if they can channel that power correctly, it might be our best chance at defending the village. We have to trust them to use their strength wisely. Shikamaru frowned, glancing out the window at the setting sun. That's easy to say, but we know how quickly things can spiral out of control. We need a plan to either support them or rein them in if necessary. Just then, Naruto and Sasuke burst through the door, their presence commanding immediate attention. Tsunade. Naruto exclaimed, his voice ringing with urgency. We need to talk. Orochimaru is back, and he's not alone. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to them. Tsunade stood, her expression serious. What do you mean he's back? We had a run-in with him, Sasuke explained, crossing his arms. He's plotting something, and we need to be ready for anything. We can't let him manipulate the situation. What did he want? Tsunade pressed, concern creasing her brow. Naruto took a deep breath. He wants to use our powers. He believes he can control us and the forces we've unlocked. We can't let that happen. As they shared their account of the battle and Orochimaru's threats, the tension in the room grew thicker. Tsunade's eyes flickered with concern, and she exchanged glances with Kakashi and Shikamaru, each silently weighing their options. We need to fortify the village, Tsunade finally said, determination returning to her voice. We can't let Orochimaru breach our defenses. Everyone needs to be prepared. Kakashi nodded. We should also gather intel. If Orochimaru is making moves, he'll likely be recruiting allies. We can't underestimate his influence. Sasuke raised an eyebrow, sensing an opportunity. If we can identify any potential threats, we could use them against him. Make it clear that we are not to be trifled with. Naruto's eyes shone with fierce determination. Let's gather our allies, the ones who fought alongside us before. We need everyone on board if we're going to stand a chance. As they formulated their plan, Naruto felt a familiar surge of excitement. The thrill of battle was intoxicating, but this time, it was different. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for a cause, for a future that could change everything. With a newfound sense of purpose, they set out to rally their allies. The first stop was to recruit the members of Team 10, Shikamaru, Ino, and Koji. They would need their strategic minds and strength in the days ahead. In the outskirts of the village, Shikamaru had already begun organizing a meeting. Ino, Koji, we are facing a potential threat from Orochimaru, he said, his voice serious. We need to be ready for anything. Ino looked at him, her brow furrowed with concern. Is it really that bad? I mean, Naruto and Sasuke are powerful now. Power doesn't guarantee safety, Shikamaru replied, crossing his arms. We need to think strategically. Orochimaru won't attack head-on. He'll use manipulation and deceit. Koji nodded, grabbing a snack from his bag. So what do we do? Just sit here and wait for something to happen. No, Shikamaru said, determination shining in his eyes. We gather intel. We strengthen our defenses. If Orochimaru wants a fight, we'll be ready. Meanwhile, Naruto and Sasuke had split off to gather the other allies. They first found Gaara, the Kazekage, who was training in the desert sands outside Tsunagakure. Gaara. Naruto called, his voice carrying across the dunes. We need your help. Orochimaru's back and threatening our future. Gaara turned, his expression stoic but concerned. I see. What do you need from me? We need to build alliances and gather forces. Your sand village has been through battles before. We could use your experience, Sasuke said, stepping forward. I'll stand with you, Gaara replied, his resolve unwavering. I understand the cost of power all too well. I won't let Orochimaru threaten our homes. As they continued to rally allies, the atmosphere shifted. The looming threat of Orochimaru and the challenges they faced forced them to confront their past, but it also sparked hope for a brighter future. Returning to Kanadi, Naruto felt the weight of leadership settle onto his shoulders. He could feel the gazes of his friends and allies, their expectations resting heavily on him. All right, everyone, Naruto said, standing before the gathered crowd of shinobi. Orochimaru wants to use our power against us, but we won't let that happen. We'll fight for our future. Cheers erupted from the crowd, their spirits ignited by Naruto's words. Sasuke stepped beside him, his expression stoic yet supportive. We've fought together before, Sasuke added, his voice calm but firm. We can do it again. We need to prepare ourselves, train harder, and strategize. The crowd nodded, their determination palpable. With Naruto and Sasuke at the forefront, they began discussing tactics, strategies, and preparations for the inevitable confrontation with Orochimaru and any allies he might bring. As the sun set on the horizon, casting a warm glow over Kanata, the sense of unity among the shinobi grew stronger. Naruto felt invigorated, his spirit soaring with the collective determination of his friends and allies. Together, we'll protect our village and everyone we care about, Naruto declared, his voice ringing with confidence. No matter what it takes. With that resolve solidified, the preparations for the impending storm began in earnest. Each shinobi returned to their tasks, training, and strategizing, readying themselves for the challenges ahead. The calm before the storm loomed over Kanata, but within the hearts of its defenders burned a fire of determination. They had faced adversity before, but this time was different. They were not just fighting for their village, they were fighting for their freedom, their ideals, and a future that held the promise of change. As Naruto watched the sun dip below the horizon, a fierce determination ignited within him. No longer would he be a pawn in someone else's game. He would carve his own path and protect what mattered most. Let's go, everyone, Naruto called, his voice echoing with confidence. We've got a future to fight for? And with that, they prepared for the battle that lay ahead, their bonds forged in the fires of conflict, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in the ever-changing world of shinobi. As the shadows deepened and night enveloped Kanata, the village buzzed with a sense of urgency and determination. Shinobi of all ranks trained tirelessly, honing their skills and sharpening their techniques. Each face bore the weight of their responsibilities, and his sense of unity filled the air. This was not merely a battle for survival, it was a fight for their future. Naruto gathered the key figures in the training grounds, where he could feel the palpable energy coursing through the air. Around him stood Tsunade, Kakashi, Shikamaru, Ino, Koji, Gaara, and a handful of other trusted allies. He took a moment to appreciate the faces of his friends, each one a pillar of strength in their own right. We're at a crossroads, Naruto began, his voice steady and resolute. Orochimaru will come at us with brute force, he'll use deception and manipulation. We need to be smarter than he expects. We're not just defending our village, we're creating a new path. Tsunade nodded, her expression serious. We'll need to set up lookout posts around the borders of the village and strengthen our defenses. Any sign of movement must be reported immediately. Shikamaru stepped forward, his brow furrowed in thought. We should also split into teams to scout the surrounding areas. There are bound to be informants or rogue ninjas that Orochimaru could enlist. We need to know where he's positioning himself. Sounds good, Naruto said, feeling the adrenaline pumping through him. I'll take one team, and Sasuke can take another. We need to cover as much ground as possible. And remember, we're looking for anyone who might align themselves with Orochimaru. We can't underestimate his influence. Ino raised her hand, her eyes sparkling with determination. I can use my mind transfer jutsu to gather intel from unsuspecting enemies. If we find any of Orochimaru's spies, I can infiltrate their ranks. Naruto grinned at her enthusiasm. That's the spirit. We can't let fear hold us back. We need to take the fight to him. Gaara crossed his arms, his expression calm yet intense. I will return to the scent and rally support. If we're going to face Orochimaru, we'll need the alliance of other villages as well. They'll be hesitant to join, but we can convince them that our fight is their fight too. Good, Tsunade said, her eyes glinting with approval. Gaara, you have the authority to make those decisions on our behalf. Use that authority wisely. With their roles defined, the teams prepared to set out into the night. Naruto felt a rush of anticipation coursing through him as he turned to Sasuke. Ready to take the lead again. Sasuke's eyes narrowed, a smirk playing on his lips. I've got this. Just make sure you don't do anything reckless. Me? Reckless? Naruto feigned innocence, which drew a chuckle from the group, lightening the tension that had gripped them moments before. Tsunade clapped her hands to regain their attention. Focus. The situation is serious. We can't afford distractions. Everyone knows their tasks. Let's move out. As the teens scattered into the night, Naruto and Sasuke found themselves moving through the dense forests surrounding Kanata. The moon bathed the landscape in a silvery light, creating an ethereal ambience that seemed at odds with their dire mission. Let's head towards the old ruins near the river, Naruto suggested, recalling that Orochimaru had a history of using abandoned places as bases. It's a good hiding spot, and we might catch a glimpse of his movement. Sasuke nodded, moving silently through the underbrush. Stay alert. We can't let our guard down. The two moved swiftly and quietly, their instincts heightened by the danger that lay ahead. As they reached the ruins, Naruto felt the familiar thrill of battle beginning to stir within him. This was where he thrived, amidst uncertainty and chaos. Inside the ruins, they split up to cover more ground, each aware that the other would be there if danger arose. Naruto made his way to what appeared to be an old training area, dust and vines reclaiming the space. He could sense a presence nearby, his instincts tingling. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice echoing against the stone walls. No answer came, but Naruto felt a sudden shift in the air. He summoned the gravity around him, ready to react. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows, a smirk playing on his lips. "Look who it is, the Hokage wannabe himself," the figure said, stepping into the moonlight. Naruto narrowed his eyes, recognizing the man. "Kabuto. Surprised to see me?" Kabuto replied, brushing his hair back as if he owned the place. "I've been keeping an eye on you, Naruto. You've really grown." "Enough games," Naruto said, the gravity around him intensifying, his fists clenched. "What do you want?" Kabuto chuckled softly, amusement dancing in his eyes. "You know, Orochimaru has big plans for you. He sees the potential in you more than anyone else. You could be part of something truly magnificent." "Magnificent?" Naruto sneered, his disdain palpable. "You mean twisted and corrupt. I'll never be a pawn in Orochimaru's game." Kabuto shrugged, the smirk never leaving his face. "That's a shame. You could have had real power. But it seems you've made your choice." In an instant, Kabuto moved, a blur of motion as he lunged toward Naruto with deadly precision. But Naruto was ready. He activated his gravity manipulation, pulling the ground beneath him to create an upward thrust, launching himself above Kabuto's reach. With a flick of his wrist, Naruto unleashed a wave of gravitational force, sending Kabuto crashing into the stone walls of the ruins. The impact echoed through the night as dust and debris filled the air. Sasuke, hearing the commotion, rushed into the training area, his Sharingan activated and ready for battle. He found Naruto standing over dazed Kabuto, whose confidence had been replaced with alarm. "Looks like you've got a little help, huh?" Kabuto taunted, slowly rising to his feet. "But you can defeat me alone." Naruto grinned, feeling the rush of excitement. "You really think you can take us on?" Kabuto's expression twisted with determination as he gathered his chakra, preparing for a fight. "I don't need to take you on alone." Suddenly, the shadows around him shifted as more figures stepped into the moonlight. Orochimaru's henchmen, surrounding the two shinobi. The odds were now stacked against them. "Looks like it's party time," Sasuke said, scanning their opponents. "We can't let them overwhelm us. We need to be strategic." Naruto nodded, adrenaline pumping through his veins. "Let's take them down quickly." With that, Naruto and Sasuke leaped into action, coordinating their attacks seamlessly. Naruto manipulated gravity to pin down one of the henchmen, making him an easy target for Sasuke's lightning-fast strikes. Sasuke unleashed a series of fireballs, sending them hurtling toward the enemies with deadly precision. The henchmen scattered, but Naruto's gravitational waves pushed them back together, making it easier for Sasuke to pick them off one by one. As the battle raged, Kabuto struggled to regain his footing, frustration growing in his eyes. You think you can win like this? Orochimaru will have the last laugh. Not if we have anything to say about it, Naruto shouted, launching himself toward Kabuto with newfound determination. In a flash, he unleashed a powerful Rasengan, the swirling entity crackling with intensity. Kabuto barely had time to react as Naruto connected, sending him sprawling against the stone wall. Breathing heavily, Naruto surveyed the scene. The henchmen were falling one by one, their attacks futile against the combined strength of him and Sasuke. We can't let them escape, Sasuke said, catching his breath. We need to extract information about Orochimaru's plans. Naruto nodded, determination in his eyes. Right. Let's finish this. With renewed vigor, they pressed the attack, pushing back against the remaining henchmen. As the last of them fell, Kabuto, now cornered and desperate, made one final attempt to flee. Don't think this is over? Kabuto spat, attempting to use his transformation technique. But Naruto anticipated his move, manipulating the gravity around him, pinning him down before he could escape. Not so fast, Naruto said, a fierce grin on his face. You're not going anywhere? Sasuke stepped forward, his Sharingan glowing ominously. You're going to tell us everything you know about Orochimaru's plans. Kabuto's eyes flickered with a mixture of fear and defiance. You think I'll give you anything? Orochimaru has plans far beyond your comprehension. Then I guess we'll just have to make you talk, Naruto said, raising his fist threateningly. You'll regret crossing us. Kabuto laughed, but it was shaky. You think you can intimidate me? You have no idea what he's capable of. Sasuke leaned closer, his voice cold and steady. You'll tell us, or we'll make sure your end is much worse than you can imagine. With Kabuto captured and their immediate threat neutralized, Naruto and Sasuke prepared to return to Konoha, ready to share their findings with Tsunade and the others. As they made their way through the forest, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Orochimaru was out there, plotting his next move, and they needed to stay one step ahead. Things are about to get a lot more complicated, Sasuke said, breaking the silence as they walked. Naruto nodded, a fierce determination burning within him. Let them come. We'll be ready. The moon illuminated their path as they forged ahead, united in their purpose. The storm was coming, but together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, standing firm against the encroaching darkness. This was just the beginning of their journey, and Naruto was ready to carve his own path in a world that was changing faster than he could imagine. The fight for their future had only just begun, and with every step, they would rise to meet it head-on. As Naruto and Sasuke approached the outskirts of Konoha, the adrenaline from their skirmish with Kabuto still pulsed through their veins. Each step felt heavier with the weight of what lay ahead, but the resolve to protect their village pushed them forward. The village loomed into view, illuminated by the soft glow of lanterns that flickered against the encroaching darkness. But even in this moment of respite, Naruto could sense the tension in the air. The villagers moved about with purpose, aware that something ominous lurked just beyond the horizon. As they entered the village gates, they were greeted by the sight of their comrades, each one standing vigilant, ready for the inevitable storm that approached. Tsunade was there, her expression fierce as she caught sight of them. Naruto. Sasuke, she called out, striding towards them. What happened? We felt a disturbance in a chuckle waves. Calm down, Tsunade, Naruto replied, trying to catch his breath. We ran into Kabuto and a group of Orochimaru's henchmen. We managed to take them down, but Kabuto escaped. Sasuke's eyes narrowed as he continued. He didn't have much information, but he hinted that Orochimaru has bigger plans in motion. We can't underestimate him. Tsunade crossed her arms, her brow furrowing in thought. What kind of plans? He didn't say, but if he's gathering forces, it means he's looking for allies to take us down, Naruto added, his tone grim. We need to act fast. We should prepare for a potential attack. Agreed, Tsunade said, her voice steady. I'll send out messengers to the other villages, warn them of Orochimaru's movements. We'll need their support if things escalate. As the meeting progressed, Naruto felt a familiar sense of camaraderie and purpose fill the room. Shikamaru, Ino, and Koji joined them, each one contributing their thoughts to the strategy. Let's split into teams, Shikamaru suggested, looking over a map of the surrounding areas. We need to scout for any unusual activity and report back. Naruto leaned closer, excitement sparking within him. I can take a team to the north. We might be able to intercept any of Orochimaru's messengers. Sasuke nodded in agreement. And I'll head south. If we can cut off his communication, it will give us an advantage. Then I'll go with you, Sasuke, Ino said, determination in her eyes. I can use my jutsu to gather information from any spies we encounter. Koji and I will stay here and fortify the defenses, Shikamaru said. We need to ensure the village is secure while you're out scouting. Tsunade looked around at her assembled shinobi, pride swelling in her chest. We're in this together. We need to trust each other's strengths. Stay alert, and watch each other's backs. As they finalized their plans, Naruto felt a surge of determination coursing through him. He was no longer just a boy who wanted to be Hokage, he was now a leader among his peers, fighting not only for his dreams but for the safety of everyone he loved. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the village. Naruto gathered his gear, a sense of urgency propelling him forward. He felt the weight of his newfound abilities, the gravity of the situation pressing down on him. But he also felt empowered. He was ready to embrace the challenges that lay ahead. Let's move out, Naruto shouted, rallying his team as they headed for the northern edge of the village. The thrill of the unknown ignited his spirit, and he felt alive with purpose. As they traversed the rugged terrain north of Kanata, Naruto led his team with fierce determination. Ino, using her sensory abilities, moved cautiously ahead, scanning the area for any signs of movement. Hold up, she said, raising a hand. I sense chakra nearby. It's faint, but it's definitely there. Naruto's heart raced as they prepared for an encounter. Let's check it out. We can't let anyone get through. They approached the source of the chakra, stealthily moving through the underbrush. As they neared, Naruto could make out a group of figures gathered around a flickering campfire, their silhouettes casting eerie shadows against the trees. Looks like we've found ourselves some unwelcome guests, Sasuke said, his voice low and tense. Let's listen in, Ino whispered, crouching low to the ground as they hid behind a thicket of bushes. The figures were indeed Orochimaru's henchmen, their faces obscured in a dim light. Naruto strained to hear their conversation. Did you hear? Orochimaru has a plan to resurrect some of his strongest allies, one of the henchmen said, excitement in his tone. If we can gather enough chakra, we can unleash them upon the villages. That's risky, another replied. If they are detected, it could bring the entire village down on us. Not if we do it right, the first one insisted. We just need to capture the right shinobi and drain their chakra. Orochimaru will reward us handsomely. Naruto's fists clenched, fury rising within him. This was the confirmation that Orochimaru was indeed trying to manipulate them, playing them like pawns in a larger game. We can't let this happen, he whispered fiercely, turning to Sasuke and Ino. We have to stop them now. Agreed, Sasuke replied, his eyes blazing with determination. We strike fast and hard. Ino nodded, her expression serious. Let me take control of one of them. I can gather more information about Orochimaru's plans if I can get close enough. All right, let's do this, Naruto said, adrenaline coursing through him. On my signal. With a silent count, Naruto nodded, and they sprang into action. Ino darted forward, focusing her chakra to establish a connection with one of the henchmen. Mind transfer jutsu, she exclaimed, and in an instant, her spirit flickered into the henchman's mind. The others were caught off guard, and Naruto seized the opportunity. Now, he shouted, unleashing a powerful wave of gravitational force that knocked the henchmen on their feet. Sasuke followed up with a barrage of fireballs, creating chaos among their ranks. The henchmen scrambled to regain their footing, but Naruto and Sasuke worked in perfect sync, cutting through their defenses like a hot knife through butter. "Let's end this quickly," Naruto shouted, summoning his Rasengan and charging towards the nearest henchman, who was still trying to process what was happening. With a swift motion, he connected the Rasengan with devastating force, sending the henchman flying back into the campfire. The flames flared up, illuminating the chaos as the other henchmen began to rally. "Get back," one of them yelled, panic rising in his voice. "We need to regroup." Ino's voice echoed in the confusion as she emerged from the mind of the henchmen she had possessed. "I have information. They are trying to resurrect powerful shinobi. We have to stop them before they gather enough chakra." Naruto's determination intensified. "We can't let that happen. We have to take them down before they can complete their plan." As the skirmish escalated, the remaining henchmen fought back with desperation. One of them charged at Naruto with a kunai, but Naruto effortlessly sidestepped, using his gravitational manipulation to redirect the attack and send the henchman sprawling. "Get ready for the end," Sasuke shouted as he unleashed a torrent of lightning, striking down another attacker. The henchmen began to realize the odds were against them, their faces pale with fear. "We have to retreat," one of them screamed, desperately trying to escape. "Not so fast," Naruto called, focusing his chakra. With a sudden surge of energy, he created a massive gravitational field, pinning the remaining henchmen to the ground. Sasuke stood beside him, his Sharingan blazing. "Now, we've finished this." With a coordinated effort, they unleashed a final barrage of attacks, overwhelming the remaining foes. The night was filled with the sounds of battle shouts, the crackle of flames, and the explosive power of jutsu. As the dust settled, Naruto stood amidst the wreckage, breathing heavily as he surveyed the aftermath. The henchmen lay incapacitated, their plans thwarted. Ino knelt beside one of the fallen attackers, her expression focused. "I'll see what I can find. We need to know more about Orochimaru's resurrection plan." "Let's hurry back to Konoha," Sasuke said, his voice firm. "We need to inform Tsunade and the others immediately." Naruto nodded, adrenaline still coursing through his veins. "We need to prepare for whatever Orochimaru has planned. This isn't over." As they made their way back to the village, the weight of their actions settled on Naruto's shoulders. They had succeeded in stopping one plot, but the larger threat loomed ever closer. In the back of his mind, he couldn't shake the feeling that Orochimaru was just getting started. But he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With his allies at his side, he would carve his own path, no matter the cost. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a silver glow over Konoha as they approached the gates. In that moment, Naruto felt a surge of confidence and determination to rise above the shadows that threatened his world. He would not allow Orochimaru to dictate their fate. This was only the beginning of a new chapter in his journey, and he was ready to embrace the darkness if it meant protecting those he loved. With every step, he felt the power of his abilities at his fingertips, ready to unleash chaos on those who sought to harm his village. "Let's go," he said, a fierce resolve igniting in his chest. "We've got work to do." As Naruto, Sasuke, and Ino approached the gates of Konoha, the weight of the recent encounter pressed heavily upon them. The village was alive with activity, shinobi bustling about in preparation for what felt like an impending storm. But for Naruto, the familiar sights of Konoha were both comforting and a reminder of the battle ahead. As they entered, Tsunade was already waiting for them, her expression serious. "You're back. What did you find?" Ino stepped forward, her voice steady despite attention. "We encountered some of Orochimaru's henchmen. They are planning to resurrect powerful shinobi, and they mentioned something about gathering chakra to complete the process." Tsunade's eyes narrowed, a flicker of concern crossing her face. "We can't allow that to happen. If he succeeds, it would change the balance of power in the shinobi world." "Exactly," Sasuke added. "We need to prepare the village for an attack. He's going to come for us, and we need to be ready." Naruto stepped forward, determination radiating from him. "Let me lead a team to scout the area around the village. We can set up traps and warn any nearby villages. We can't let Orochimaru catch us off guard. Tsunade studied Naruto, her gaze piercing. She could see the fire in his eyes, the same fire that had driven him to become stronger after every setback. Very well. Assemble your team, but be careful. Orochimaru won't hesitate to use underhanded tactics. Got it. Naruto replied, his enthusiasm palpable. As they dispersed to prepare for the mission, Naruto felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through him. This was his chance to protect his home, to show everyone how far he had come. He gathered his gear and quickly headed to the training grounds, where he planned to meet his team. Sasuke arrived first, his demeanor cool and collected as always. You're getting a little too eager, Naruto, he said with a hint of amusement. We need to stay strategic. This isn't just a simple scouting mission. Naruto grinned, unfazed by Sasuke's teasing. Yeah, but I can't help it. With these new powers, I feel like we can take on anything. He clenched his fist, the gravitational energy swirling around him. We need to show them that Konoha isn't to be trifled with. Just then, Ino joined them, a determined expression on her face. I'm ready. We can't let Orochimaru get the upper hand. Let's move quickly and efficiently. Right, Sasuke agreed, his focus sharpening. We'll split into 2 teams. You and I will scout the north side while Ino checks the south. Stay in touch using the communication seals. With their plan set, the trio took off into the dense forest surrounding Konoha. Naruto led the way, a surge of energy propelling him forward. He felt the connection to the gravity around him, manipulating it instinctively to enhance his speed and agility. As they moved deeper into the woods, the atmosphere shifted. The air felt thick with anticipation, and Naruto's senses heightened. Stay alert, he warned, eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of movement. After several hours of searching, they arrived at a clearing. The trees parted to reveal an eerie silence, a stark contrast to the vibrant life of Konoha. Naruto's instincts kicked in, and he could feel something was off. Ino, he said, glancing back at her. Can you sense anything? Ino focused, her brow furrowing as she concentrated. There's definitely chakra nearby. It feels sinister. Sasuke crossed his arms, his expression serious. Let's check it out. We need to know what we're dealing with. They cautiously made their way forward, careful to remain hidden. As they approached the edge of the clearing, they saw a small gathering of figures shrouded in shadow, their forms outlined by flickering torches. What are they doing? Naruto whispered, narrowing his eyes as he tried to catch a glimpse of their faces. Ino's eyes widened as she realized what they were witnessing. They are performing a jutsu. They are trying to gather chakra. Naruto's heart raced. We can't let them complete it. We need to disrupt whatever they are doing. Without hesitation, he stepped forward, unleashing a pulse of gravitational energy that sent shockwaves through the clearing. The earth trembled, and the figures stumbled, startled by the sudden disturbance. Now! Sasuke shouted, darting into the clearing, his Sharingan activated. He unleashed a barrage of shuriken infused with lightning, aiming for the closest henchman. Ino followed suit, using her mind transfer jutsu to seize control of one of the attackers before he could react. I'll get information. Keep them busy. Naruto charged forward, his Rasengan forming in his hand. He felt the power coursing through him, a blend of the strength he had gained and the overwhelming energy from the Fujitora's devil fruit. With a fierce battle cry, he slammed the Rasengan into the ground, creating a shockwave that knocked several henchmen off their feet. Who dares interrupt our ritual? One of the henchmen shouted, scrambling to regain his footing. Naruto grinned, his excitement palpable. Just a couple of shinobi here to ruin your day. The chaos erupted as the henchmen regrouped, their expressions a mix of anger and fear. You'll pay for this, one of them yelled, charging at Naruto with a kunai. But Naruto was ready. He activated his gravitational powers, and with a mere thought, he increased the gravity around the attacker, causing him to crash to the ground, unable to move. Nice try. Naruto taunted, feeling invincible. He turned to see Sasuke and Ino coordinating their attacks, seamlessly working together to take down the remaining henchmen. As the skirmish intensified, Naruto felt the rush of battle invigorate him. He moved with a fluidity he hadn't experienced before, using his enhanced abilities to manipulate the battlefield to his advantage. He targeted another henchman, channeling energy into a massive wave of gravitational force that sent him flying backward. "This is too easy," he shouted, laughter spilling from his lips as he relished the thrill of combat. But as the last of the henchmen fell, a shadow loomed over the clearing. A figure emerged from the trees, cloaked in darkness, with an aura that sent chills down Naruto's spine. "Fools," the figure sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "You think you can stop the resurrection? You are merely pawns in a much larger game." Naruto's heart sank as he recognized the face of one of Orochimaru's elite subordinates. "Who are you?" he demanded, steeling himself for the fight. "The name is Zaku," the figure replied, a twisted smile spreading across his lips. "And you've just made a grave mistake. You have no idea what you are up against." Before Naruto could respond, Zaku launched into action, using an advanced wind-based jutsu that sent blades of wind slicing through the air toward them. Naruto quickly formed a barrier using his gravitational powers, deflecting the attack with a forceful push. "Stay close," Naruto shouted to Sasuke and Ino as he prepared for Zaku's next move. He could feel the gravity around him shifting as he drew on his abilities, the air thickening with tension. Zaku grinned, clearly enjoying the chaos. "You think you can keep up with me? Let's see how long you can last." He began weaving a series of hand signs, gathering chakra for a larger attack. Ino focused her chakra, attempting to reach into Zaku's mind with her jutsu. "Hold still," she shouted, her voice firm. "I'll take control of you." But Zaku was too fast. He unleashed his jutsu, and a massive gust of wind erupted, knocking Ino back and disrupting her focus. "Now, let's see how you handle this," he taunted, sending a barrage of wind blades slicing toward them. "Watch out," Sasuke yelled, activating his Sharingan as he dodged the attack. He countered with his own jutsu, summoning a torrent of fire that clashed against Zaku's wind, creating a dazzling display of light and power. "Good job," Naruto shouted, feeling the intensity of the battle rising. He summoned his gravitational energy, amplifying it as he charged toward Zaku, determined to end the fight quickly. With a swift motion, Naruto harnessed his powers, manipulating gravity to create an immense force that pushed Zaku back against the trees. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the ground, shaking the very earth beneath their feet. Zaku struggled to regain his footing, his expression shifting from confidence to shock. "What are you?" he gasped, feeling the overwhelming weight of Naruto's powers. "I'm just getting started," Naruto roared, his voice echoing through the clearing. He focused all his energy into a final attack, channeling his gravitational force into a massive Rasengan that glowed with raw energy. With a surge of speed, he lunged at Zaku, who was still reeling from the impact. "This ends now," Naruto declared, slamming the Rasengan into Zaku with all his might. The resulting explosion lit up the clearing, a brilliant flash of light enveloping them. The force of the attack sent Zaku crashing to the ground, defeated and unable to continue. As the dust settled, Naruto stood tall, breathing heavily but victorious. "That was amazing," he exclaimed, adrenaline coursing through him. "We took down an elite henchman." Ino pushed herself up from the ground, brushing off dirt. "Yeah, but we can't get complacent. Orochimaru will send more." Sasuke nodded, his eyes scanning the surroundings. "We need to report back to Tsunade and prepare for the next wave." "Right," Naruto agreed, a fierce determination igniting in his chest. "We won't let Orochimaru win. Not now, not ever." As they made their way back to Kanadi, Naruto couldn't shake the exhilaration from the battle. He felt stronger, more confident in his abilities. With each fight, he was forging his own path, one that was different from anyone else's. He knew that challenges lay ahead, but he was ready to face them head-on. He would protect Kanada at all costs, and no one, no matter how powerful, would take away the future he was determined to build. The village came into view as they neared the gates, a symbol of everything he fought for. In that moment, Naruto vowed to himself, he would embrace the darkness if it meant shielding those he loved from harm. With the wind at his back and the light of the moon guiding their way, Naruto felt unstoppable, a force to be reckoned with. The road ahead was uncertain, but he was ready to carve his destiny into the fabric of the shinobi world. As they approached the village gates, Naruto's heart raced with a mix of triumph and anticipation. The moon hung high above Kanata, casting a silver light over the rooftops. Every step resonated with the echo of their recent victory, but Naruto knew the fight was far from over. They had merely scratched the surface of Orochimaru's plans. "Let's report it, Tsunade," he urged, urgency lining his voice. The last thing he wanted was for the village to be caught off guard again. Sasuke and Ino nodded in agreement, their expressions reflecting a shared resolve. They made their way through the bustling streets, passing familiar faces, all oblivious to the looming threat. The villagers went about their nightly routines, unaware of the darkness gathering beyond the village walls. Inside the Hokage's office, Tsunade sat behind her desk, poring over mission reports. Her brow furrowed as she sensed the tension radiating from the trio as they entered. "What did you find?" she asked, setting down her papers and giving them her full attention. Zaku was leading a group trying to perform a jutsu to resurrect powerful shinobi, Naruto explained, still brimming with adrenaline. "We stopped them, but I'm sure they'll regroup. We need to act fast." Tsunade's expression hardened. "Resurrecting powerful shinobi? That's no small threat. We can't allow Orochimaru to gain that kind of power." "Then what's the plan?" Ino asked, her tone resolute. "We need to strike first before they can complete their jutsu." Tsunade considered this, her mind racing through strategies and potential allies. "We'll need to gather intel on Orochimaru's movements. If he's planning a large-scale operation, we should prepare an ambush. But we also need to strengthen our defenses in the meantime." Naruto leaned forward, determination etched on his face. "Let me lead the ambush team. I can feel their movements with my new powers. I'll be able to anticipate their attacks." Tsunade scrutinized him, contemplating the potential risks. "This isn't just another mission, Naruto. If you go in recklessly, you could expose yourself to greater danger." Naruto met her gaze, unwavering. "I know what I can do now, Tsunade. I'm not the same kid I used to be. I have the power to change the game." After a tense moment, Tsunade finally nodded. "All right. You'll lead a small team to scout their location and gather information. But you must promise me you'll be careful. Your safety is paramount." "Of course," Naruto replied, excitement coursing through him. "We won't let you down. Gather your team and prepare for the mission," Tsunade ordered. "I'll have Shikamaru help coordinate the strategy. We need to be smart about this." As they left the office, Naruto felt a rush of purpose. This was his chance to prove himself not just to Tsunade, but to everyone who had doubted him. He would show them that he could protect Kanata, even if it meant embracing the darkness within him. "Let's get Sakura and Kakashi," he suggested, his mind racing with possibilities. "They'll want to be part of this." Sasuke nodded, his expression thoughtful. "We'll need their skills, especially if we encounter Orochimaru himself." Ino added, "And we can use Sakura's healing abilities in case things get messy." The team quickly gathered in front of the training grounds, where Sakura was practicing her medical ninjutsu while Kakashi observed, leaning casually against a tree. When he saw them approaching, his lazy demeanor shifted to one of interest. "What's going on?" Kakashi asked, pushing himself off the tree and walking toward them. "We've got a lead on Orochimaru," Naruto explained, his voice filled with urgency. "We need to gather intel on his movements and set up an ambush before he can complete his plans." Sakura straightened, her eyes wide with determination. "I'm in. What do you need me to do?" "We'll need you to support us if we get into a fight, and your healing will be crucial," Sasuke added, his tone focused. Kakashi crossed his arms, a glint of approval in his eye. Sounds like a solid plan. But remember, this could get dangerous. Make sure you stay on your toes. Don't worry. Naruto exclaimed, confidence swelling within him. With my new powers, I can handle anything. They set off under the moonlight, making their way toward the outskirts of Kanata. Naruto led the way, feeling the pulse of chakra in the air. The gravitational energy around him hummed with anticipation, guiding his instincts as they approached their target. As they neared the edge of the forest, Naruto felt the atmosphere shift again. There was a heaviness in the air, a warning of what lay ahead. This feels wrong, he murmured, casting a wary glance around. Just stay sharp, Sasuke replied, his eyes scanning the trees for any sign of movement. They paused at the edge of a clearing, and Naruto sensed a gathering of chakra. The faint glow of torches flickered through the trees, illuminating a makeshift camp. Figures moved about, their intentions hidden in the shadows. This must be it, Naruto whispered, adrenaline surging through him. We need to get closer. Let's split up and surround them, Kakashi suggested. Naruto, you can use your powers to manipulate the environment to our advantage. Got it, Naruto replied, a fierce grin spreading across his face. As they stealthily moved into position, Naruto focused his energy, feeling the gravitational pull shift as he prepared for their attack. He wanted to disrupt the camp and catch them off guard. Suddenly, a loud crack shattered the silence of the night, causing the figures in the camp to freeze. What was that? One of them called out, and Naruto seized the moment. Now, he shouted, unleashing a burst of gravitational energy that sent shockwaves through the ground. The torches toppled, and chaos erupted as the camp was thrown into disarray. Sasuke and Sakura charged in, taking advantage of the confusion. Sasuke unleashed a torrent of fire jutsu, while Sakura leaped into action, targeting any enemy who attempted to regroup. Naruto felt the thrill of the battle electrify him, and he unleashed his Rasengan, this time charged with gravitational energy. It collided with a group of henchmen, sending them sprawling across the ground. This is what I'm talking about, he yelled, exhilaration coursing through him. He could feel the power surging within him, the chaos he could unleash to protect Kanata. But just as they gained the upper hand, a familiar presence emerged from the shadows. Orochimaru himself, stepping forward with a chilling smile. Well, if it isn't my old friends, he hissed, his voice dripping with malevolence. I see you've come to play. Naruto's excitement faltered for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest. Orochimaru, he shouted, determination flaring within him. We're not letting you win. Sasuke's eyes narrowed, rage boiling within him. You won't get away with your plans. We'll stop you here and now. Orochimaru chuckled, unfazed by their bravado. Such fire, but it will only lead to your downfall. You cannot comprehend the depths of my power. In that moment, Naruto felt the gravitational forces around him intensify, a reflection of the turmoil in the air. He focused on Orochimaru, channeling the energy of the Fujitora devil fruit, his powers ready to unleash chaos. With a battle cry, Naruto launched himself at Orochimaru, the world around him blurring as he tapped into his newfound abilities. I won't let you hurt anyone else, he yelled, unleashing a devastating wave of gravitational energy. The force collided with Orochimaru, and for a moment, the world held its breath. The impact sent a shockwave through the clearing, causing trees to bend and crack as the two powers clashed. Orochimaru stumbled back, surprise flashing across his face. Impressive, he hissed, his expression shifting to one of dark delight. But do you think that's enough to defeat me? Naruto's heart raced. He could feel the momentum shifting, and with it, the hope of protecting his village surged. We're just getting started, he declared, ready to embrace the chaos of battle. The fight was on. As Naruto faced Orochimaru, the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on him. But he was not alone. Sasuke and Sakura moved in perfect sync beside him, their spirits ignited by the drive to protect their home. Let's finish this, Sasuke shouted, unleashing his own jutsu in a deadly barge. Sakura rushed forward, using her incredible strength to break through enemy lines, and together, they were a force to be reckoned with. The clearing erupted into chaos as Orochimaru retaliated, summoning snakes that slithered through the air, seeking to ensnare Naruto and his friends. But with a flick of his wrist, Naruto manipulated gravity, sending the snakes crashing back to the ground, unable to reach them. "Is that all you've got?" he taunted, adrenaline coursing through him, the thrill of battle pushing him forward. "You're going to have to do better than that." Orochimaru's eyes narrowed, his demeanor shifting. "You've grown stronger, but strength alone won't save you." With a swift motion, he summoned a wave of chakra, the air thickening with danger. Naruto could feel the oppressive energy radiating from Orochimaru. "We won't back down," he shouted, his resolve igniting the air around him. "This is for everyone you've hurt." With every ounce of his power, he summoned a massive gravitational force that spiraled toward Orochimaru. The ground trembled as he unleashed his jutsu, pushing back against the dark force that threatened to engulf them. The battle escalated, a clash of titans fueled by vengeance, resolve, and the desperate need to protect their world. Naruto felt the darkness within him, a chaotic energy that promised power but also danger. But with every strike against Orochimaru, he felt his purpose sharpen. This was his path, one forged in conflict and driven by the will to protect Konoha at any cost, even if it meant embracing the chaos within. And as the fight raged on, Naruto knew one thing for certain: he would stop at nothing to carve his own destiny, a legacy written in the shadows of battle and the light of hope. As the battle intensified, Naruto felt the weight of every decision he had ever made pressing down on him. Each clash of chakra resonated through the clearing, a reminder that he stood at the crossroads of destiny and chaos. Orochimaru's snakes hissed and lunged, but Naruto danced around him with a newfound grace, the gravitational pull of his powers allowing him to move like a shadow. "Now's our chance!" Sakura shouted, her voice slicing through the chaos. She leaped forward, channeling her chakra into a powerful punch aimed directly at Orochimaru. But just as she was about to strike, he sidestepped, his movements almost serpentine. "Foolish girl," he sneered, his tone laced with contempt. He raised his hand, and a dark wave of energy surged toward her. In that moment, Naruto reacted instinctively. "Get back," he yelled, extending his hand toward the attack. He focused on the gravity around the energy, manipulating it with precision. The dark wave collided with an invisible barrier, bending and twisting as it was absorbed into the ground. The force sent tremors through the clearing, but Sakura was safe. "Nice save," Sakura exclaimed, her eyes wide with admiration. But Naruto barely had time to relish the moment before Orochimaru retaliated. "You think you can protect everyone?" he hissed, his expression twisted with malice. "You are merely a child playing at power." "Shut up!" Naruto shouted back, his determination flaring. "You don't know anything about me. I've fought for everything I have." With a surge of will, he unleashed another gravitational wave, the energy crackling around him as he propelled it toward Orochimaru. This time, he infused it with all his dander and resolve. The force slammed into Orochimaru, sending him staggering backward. But Orochimaru quickly regained his footing, a sinister grin spreading across his face. "Impressive, but do you really think you can defeat me alone?" Suddenly, the ground beneath Naruto shook violently, and he felt a familiar presence rising from the shadows. A massive snake, larger than any he had seen before, coiled up behind Orochimaru, its eyes gleaming with predatory hunger. "Kusanagi!" Orochimaru called, and the serpent lunged toward Naruto, fangs bared. "Watch out!" Sasuke shouted, his voice filled with urgency. He launched himself toward the snake, determined to intercept the attack. "Let me handle this!" Naruto yelled, raising his hands. He concentrated, feeling the gravitational force swell around him, ready to be unleashed. "I'll take care of it." With a fierce shout, he focused his chakra and manipulated the gravity in the area, creating a gravitational field that repelled the snake. The creature recoiled as if it had struck an invisible wall, its momentum halted by Naruto's overwhelming power. Sasuke took advantage of the distraction, launching a series of shuriken imbued with his chakra. They sliced through the air and struck the snake, forcing it to retreat. "Good job, Naruto," he called out, his tone filled with respect. "Let's keep pushing," Sakura added, her determination mirroring their resolve. Together, they formed a cohesive unit, each member contributing their strengths to keep the pressure on Orochimaru. Orochimaru's expression darkened as he realized that his minions were being outmatched. "You think this little display will intimidate me?" he spat, his eyes narrowing. "You've only awakened the true darkness within me." With a flick of his wrist, he summoned a dark orb of chakra, its energy pulsating with malevolence. The ground trembled, and Naruto could feel the air thickening as Orochimaru prepared to unleash a devastating jutsu. "Get ready," Naruto shouted, his heart racing. "We can let him finish that." He felt the gravity shift again, a warning that something big was about to happen. Drawing on the depths of his newfound powers, he concentrated, summoning every ounce of chakra he could muster. "Raise Nan," he yelled, forming the spinning sphere of energy in his hand, infusing it with gravitational force. "This ends now." With a fierce determination, Naruto launched himself at Orochimaru, the Raise Nan blazing with energy. The dark orb Orochimaru had summoned shot toward him, a swirling mass of destruction. "Raise Nan!" Naruto yelled, the collision of their jutsus sending shockwaves through the forest. The two forces met in a brilliant explosion, a blinding flash of light illuminating the night. When the light faded, Naruto found himself on the ground, panting heavily. He blinked, disoriented, scanning the clearing for any sign of Orochimaru. His heart sank as he spotted the villain struggling to rise, his body battered but still standing. Not yet," Orochimaru rasped, his face twisted in pain but determination still flickering in his eyes. "You may have gained power, but you're still a child. You cannot comprehend the true depths of darkness." "Shut up!" Naruto shot back, his anger igniting a fire within him. "You're the one who doesn't understand. This is my village, and I will protect it." With renewed vigor, he stood tall, feeling the weight of his powers surge within him. He would not let Orochimaru escape. This was his chance to take control, to prove that he was more than just a vessel of chaos. "Let's finish this," he shouted, focusing on the gravitational energy surrounding him. He could feel it pulsing, ready to be unleashed. Sasuke and Sakura rallied beside him, their spirits ignited by his determination. "We're with you, Naruto," Sasuke declared, his resolve unwavering. "Together," Sakura added, clenching her fists. As the three of them advanced, Naruto felt a new connection forming among them, a bond forged in battle and strengthened by their shared purpose. He focused his energy, creating a gravitational field that amplified their combined strength. "Now," he shouted, and together they unleashed their attacks. Naruto propelled himself forward, channeling his gravitational energy into a powerful thrust aimed directly at Orochimaru. "Raisin Shuriken," he bellowed, spinning the energy into a deadly projectile, while Sasuke unleashed a volley of lightning-infused shuriken and Sakura charged with all her might. The combined forces surged toward Orochimaru, and for the first time, Naruto saw fear flicker across his opponent's face. "No. This can't be." Orochimaru screamed, trying to evade, but it was too late. The attacks struck him simultaneously, an explosion of energy erupting through the clearing, engulfing him in blinding light. As the dust settled, the remnants of Orochimaru's dark energy began to dissipate, leaving Ollie's silence in its wake. Naruto stood, breathing heavily, the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. He scanned the area, searching for any signs of Orochimaru, but all that remained was the aftermath of their fierce battle. "We did it," Sakura said softly, disbelief coloring her tone. "We really did it." Sasuke nodded, though his expression remained serious. "Don't let your guard down. He might still have a trick up his sleeve." "Yeah, but we pushed him back," Naruto exclaimed, a grin breaking through his exhaustion. "We showed him that we are stronger together." They shared a moment of camaraderie, their spirits lifted by their victory. But deep down, Naruto knew this was only the beginning. Orochimaru would not stay down for long. The darkness would always linger, and it was up to him to confront it. As they turned to leave the clearing, a sudden chill swept through the air. Naruto paused, sensing a shift in the atmosphere. The gravitational pull around them seemed to warp, and he felt an ominous presence lurking just beyond the trees. "Do you feel that?" he asked, his heart racing. Sasuke narrowed his eyes, scanning the shadows. Something's not right. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness, one that made Naruto's blood run cold. It was a silhouette cloaked in shadow, the familiar presence sending shivers down his spine. "Did you really think I would be so easily defeated?" Orochimaru's voice echoed, smoother and more sinister than before. "Impossible." Sakura gasped, stepping back. But Naruto stood firm, his fists clenched. "I won't let you hurt anyone else." With renewed determination, Naruto prepared to unleash his powers once more, ready to embrace the chaos within him. This time, he would not falter. He would harness his darkness and use it to protect his friends and his village. The path ahead was uncertain, but he was ready to carve out his own destiny, one that would echo through the ages. The fight was far from over, but Naruto was determined. He was no longer just a vessel, he was a force of nature, a warrior who would face the darkness head-on. He would not shy away from the chaos, for within it lay the strength to create a new future. "Let's go," he shouted, launching himself at Orochimaru once more, ready to confront whatever darkness awaited him. The battle was just beginning, and Naruto would make his mark on history one powerful step at a time.